I suspect all the three sessions were quite engaging and interesting. I saw that the one here, although the presenter did not give other children the chance to ask them any questions, we must create an opportunity for them to engage. Welcome back as well to our colleagues who are joining online. We are now resuming with the session, and you should be able to hear us. And once again, please, just by indication of either a message in the chat or a thumbs up, indicate whether you can hear the sound. When we started earlier after the tea break, there was an issue. There was an issue with the sound. So please just indicate if all is well. We'll start our session when we're doing some sort of report backs. By the way, I suspect the City of Johannesburg session won't have a feedback session, because it was almost a let me show you what.
He said we have a network time.
Right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you'll use that for that, man. GTA, do we have a report back of some sort? Yes, no indication? It doesn't look like. Oh, all right. I am not seeing the team from Future Elect. I suspect they're enjoying the workshop a little bit too much. Oh, they are working. Is this the people from the Future Elect? Yes. Okay, please walk in. Please walk in. Anyway, as they walk in, we are going to, you must, in radio, they say you must pay the bills. So we are going to pay, the bills. Let's do that.
City of Joburg.
Welcome to Zone a golden city region pulsating with the rhythm, bustling streets from Soweto Street to
So, earlier I spoke about humor plays. Rams Mawode, may you please join us so that we start with that before we then get to our next session. Rams Mawode is the executive chairman at Decode Communications, and he's my business partner as well.
So I'm the one who makes the jokes in the office. So one of the things that we do in the business is crisis communication. And crisis like crime is one equal opportunity thing. All of us will get crisis at some point or another. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Even the Pope will tell you so. Because some crazy guy in the middle of nowhere decides to grope a 16-year-old, the Pope gets implicated in that. Right? It happens. So the question is, what do we do when we intend to do well and the well ends in crisis? So we're going to do a little bit of an exercise here. I want you to play something out for me. Mention his name, so that's not me. Right? But these things happen, guys, and this is real life. The minister and his advisors and the comms team thought it's a great thing to say congratulations to Banyana Banyana, right? They did well. Nobody could have imagined this kind of response, no less from a personality like that who would have attracted a lot of response and hero worshipping by whoever created that video. Question is, how do we respond to something like that as communicators? And I'm speaking to you as government communicators because half the time, no, a lot of times, you communicate stuff that backfires, not because the stuff was bad, but because somebody decided, I can't use those words here, but right? Yeah. Like, how do you deal with that? And I wanted to have a 5-minute conversation. Anybody? How do you deal with this? Imagine yourself as the spokesperson of Natim Tetwa then. What would you have done? Can I get Ashas, please, I need help with microphone with my mics.
So I think something that comes on like this, you take it on the same tone that it was said. So when she says that, if you play it again, when she says that, Minister, you didn't do this, resign, you actually take it, you spin it into a joke and say, maybe you resign from writing books. actually create the vibe and not be serious and say, now someone has hit on me. Colleagues, fellow colleagues of the social media summit, I'm just speaking.
Protected. We are protected.
Yes, but I think that is the stance. I'm just giving an example that don't take it too serious to say, okay, minister, then I have to respond and say, what do you mean? Yeah. I've done this and that, because that's what we tend to do in the formal, and because our environment is very formal. So in that environment, you want to state that no, I've delivered 100 million to artists in this year and whatever. Look at my annual report of, now you start with a statement. But if you just to hit it like that, then you see how you speak and others will speak for you.
Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, unlike all other people who've been on stage here, I don't allow too long answers. And preemptions. We get straight to the answer and we get out. Any other response? Thank you. You've got 13 seconds.
Hello. Yeah, two ways. Either you go for humor or you go back and challenge them on the things you've done. Because chances are, when they were supporting the artist, they posted on Twitter. You drag that back. I think we had a conversation similar earlier about one of the.
You were not in the room when you tell us about the conversation.
So what happened was we had one of the artists dragging us, one of the entities I worked for, over an electricity issue, and they said we didn't inform them. So what the Twitter team then did is drag him to when they announced the outage, the updates that happened during the day that he was not part of, or rather did not see. So that's how you deal with it. So you either use humor and you get over it, or you then use humor and then actually come back to say, but I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In this space, Nati has a lot of girls on social media that should have actually assisted in this, and that is why.
You started so
we have them. We all have
Thank you so much. From a digital perspective, I'm SABC digital specialist. So if something like that happens, I'll be the one who's responding, not SABC. So if I were to say I respond the way the first lady said, I will be fired. So the most important thing that you do,
especially the SABC.
Especially at the SABC. So what we basically do is that we apologize, and then in that manner that Nam said, I was gonna say we apologize that we do not have money at the moment, but we believe that one day we'll be able to do that, and then that's it.
Thank you. Any other view? By the way, I need to give a disclaimer. There are no right or wrong answers, but there are clever answers.
Thank you very much. In my view, the response had nothing to do with Banyana, but more to do with the minister and the arts industry. So it's just that maybe the way it was, I don't know if they responded or what, but if I were Nati, I was gonna respond to say, I do agree that Banyana deserve more money. Deserve more money. That is why they have contracts that they signed with the association when they went to play the tournament. I agree. As government, we'll see how far they go and see if we can contribute towards what they have agreed with us, with the association, because they have now raised the flag of the country. That's it. Don't trade into the gallery. Never do that. Never. She has millions of followers. Some of them are not engaging, they are there for vibes. Don't go for vibes. Focus on what is important and on your responsibility as a government official.
Thank you.
I think two things. there's an issue of credibility and also understanding who you are in the space. He's a minister, meaning that he is a servant of the people. So however he responds will be a reflection on what he and whether he understands his job or not. I think that it would have been an opportunity for him to get a platform for dialogues with artists and people in the sports section. If somebody says they're unhappy with your service delivery, you don't respond in a cheeky way. You say, okay, let us be bold enough to address your concerns. Let's give you a platform to address the concerns, and let's allow others to speak and give us suggestions. And if you're smart, you then take that and convert it into a campaign.
Okay. Any other view before we close? Any other view? Any other view?
I have a question.
Yes, Anela, give us a question. Normally, I have to ask the questions and you respond, but for today, you can ask.
Okay, so based on what everybody is saying, does it matter what platform this happened on and then how you respond to that? Because this happened on, and you keep saying that it's Twitter, the platform allows and all that. If it had happened on Facebook or YouTube or whatever, would you then take a different approach in how you respond, or do you still respond in some of the ways that other people have shared? Thank you.
Who is that question aimed at?
At you and at anyone else who can answer
I'm
it.
called a facilitator.
And anyone who can answer that, because I think then we have to take that into consideration.
Does the platform matter? Quickly, two people quickly respond to that. No, you spoke in an different voice.
I think the messaging is way more important than the platform. Just because you're on Twitter or X now, it doesn't mean you have to have a go in the same manner. I think what the message is to South Africans at that stage is way, way more important. Whether it's 30 seconds on that one or a paragraph, it's what you're saying to them. You're addressing their concerns. Yeah, I think that's... Thanks.
Any other view? This view is in response to the platform now. We've moved on from the view of...
There's a response.
You have a mic? There is coming.
So I don't have a specific response in terms of how to respond to that. But what we've also picked up a lot from Brand South Africa is that what's happening in the environment is also very key to how you respond to issues. So if you're coming in at a time where people are raging around issues of electricity, whatever services, that also then impacts the outcome that you're going to have. So it's not just about responding to everything, but being sensitive to what's happening in the media environment and deciding if that is the right time for you to put your brand out there when you know people are already disgruntled and are going to latch on to that. So I think before we even discuss how to, there needs to be a strategy of when and what to respond to.
So, here's the good news, and this good news means that you're going to get the microphone just now. We've just been given another 10 minutes on this conversation. Apparently, allegedly, because it's important.
Yes.
So I need a microphone to go back there. But the next 7 minutes, we're going to conclude this thing.
No, the view was in relation to the minister.
Oh, yeah, we're going back there now. The door has been opened.
Okay, if I was part of the minister's team,
yeah,
I would have invited Bonan to a meeting to explain how certain things work in government. Because there's a lot of misunderstanding on how government works.
You're going to invite 1 million people one day to the office of the minister.
It is not the responsibility of the department to fund those players. The association comes on board. I would have said to her, call the association in, call the players in, as government, let us have this conversation. Someone spoke about bringing the other people in to have that conversation. That's what I would have done. I would have invited them to have that conversation. Like she's correctly said, and turn it into a proper campaign to get other people involved, like maybe sponsors to come on board to increase the players' salaries. Thank you.
Thank you. Is your hand up or is it greeting you? Okay.
Thank you. So on the issue of does the platform matter, I think how I think about it is if your house is on fire and the fire is in the kitchen, you cannot put out the fire in the bedroom because the fire is in the kitchen. A lot of fires happen in the bedroom, but So if the fire is on Twitter, that is where you address it. That's what I think. For impact and for reach.
Okay, so, as I said, there are no right or wrong answers. There are brilliant ones, though. We have to admit. But there's the first thing that I think we suffer when we're faced with crisis. We take things personally. It's the first problem we suffer. We tend to think, now the world is collapsing over me and I'm going to be dead, as if nothing's going to happen. There won't be tomorrow. But I always tell people that, you know what? Somebody else will be in a crisis tomorrow, they would have forgotten about you. I'm not saying you don't respond, but I'm saying step back a little bit, just a little bit. Fact is, whether you like her or not, Bonang will have more people responding to her tweets than forget me about the minister, I'm trying to think about somebody else. Even the president. It's a fact of life. Yes, some of them are bots. You know, Vusi 21270. Like, we don't know who Vusi 21273 is, but Vusi does respond, yes. Right? Do you want to stress about Vusi 21273? I'm not too sure about that. I'm not too sure that every time Bonang speaks foul about anybody, we should worry. I'm not saying we shouldn't respond. Again, I still say, take a pause. Take a pause. And don't take it personally. Unfortunately, as a minister, you're in that job and you're going to be attacked, even when you mean well. It happens. I know it's not easy for you as communicators because sometimes the minister says, deal with this nonsense. I've always felt sorry for people in that position. For your comfort, I've been in that position before. So I sympathize. So part one, don't take yourself too seriously. Pause a little bit. Part two. Part three. There is something called third-party stakeholder. You do not have to respond to everything yourself. You can draw in third parties to deal with other matters. You don't have to be the one dealing with it. Draw other people who have an interest in the subject without calling Bonang into the minister's office, but you can get SAFA to respond to this matter, right? Because it is in their doorstep more than your doorstep. But again, I don't like the idea of them coming to the minister's office. He could have one program the whole 5 years, just attending to the million people at the door. And that's a bit much of an ask. And then there's one more part, guys. So a rapist gets arrested, they get convicted, they go to jail. And 5 years down the line, they get released for whatever reason, whether it's parole, or whether they have served half of their sentence, blah, 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 blah. And then somebody accosts the Minister of Police somewhere at an event and say, yeah, but you guys talk a lot, but the prisoners get out, you know, before they finish the sentence, and they mention this rapist by name. You know what happens 9 out of 10 times in our spaces? Is that we respond to something that's got nothing to do with us. A prisoner that does not finish their sentence got nothing to do with the police. Absolutely nothing to do with the courts. But we respond because we think, gotta defend this. You need to redirect sometimes. We investigated, we handed them over to the courts. That's where it ended with us. But somebody said something very profound also earlier, guys. Sometimes you look away. The world will not come to an end. Kaiser Khanyaho, before his current job now that looks like a celebrity job, used to be a spokesperson at the SABC. And there was a guy a few notches above him called Claudio Musoni, who made it fashionable to go wrong in his business every day. Did you know that Kaiser Khanyaho never ever responded to the things that Saudi spoke about and made an idiot of himself in the country? Sometimes you look away. You literally look away. It may feel terrible at that moment, but trust me, you may just dig yourself a deeper hole by trying to solve everything. Especially if it's silly. I think Bonang's comment was silly. Our worry is because it's Bonang and there's a million people listening to her. But it was a silly comment. It was silly. Even the people who supported her would have forgotten about it 63 minutes later. Maybe 62 minutes. Okay, let's say 2.5 days later. But at some point, that stuff would not last until you give it oxygen, because we're thinking we are being attacked. We give oxygen to crisis. Watch out. Don't give oxygen to crisis. Or actually, don't create crisis out of nothing. I was supposed to do this for 10 minutes. I'm tired now. Is the next speaker here? I gotta go. I get paid to do these things. And this one is free. Okay, are you complaining? Okay.
Yes.
So, folks, not everything that we see is crisis. Please, not everything that we see out there is crisis. It ends up being crisis because we are flustered. Suddenly we are sweating. Right? And you think, oh God, what is my boss going to say now that one has said this like this? Come on, guys. Teach your principal to have a sense of humor. And a thick skin. It's part of their job to have a thick skin. You can't have that thing that says I'm holier than thou. Actually, be self-disparaging if you can. It helps you a lot. If I were Nati, I would have said, you're so right. You know? I'd like to resign, but actually it's the president who must fire me. Maybe you should attack the president. But of course, they will never do that. And that I'll never be a politician either. So, let's not use me as an example. Are we ready?
Almost.
Almost doesn't count. I've heard a song.
Do 3 more minutes.
Of what now?
Okay,
We are ready. Answer questions.
Lorenz, maybe Lorenz, this side. Maybe while we're waiting for 3 minutes, I wanna just put a different perspective. What about the ones that demands crisis, yet we are nonchalant about them?
Hey, you're too philosophical. Please ask a direct question.
What about the ones? Remember, you're just raising a different perspective. That sometimes we have to look away. Sometimes we don't have to give oxygen to something that doesn't have oxygen. What about the ones that demands attention?
Like who and how? Give me an example of demanding.
Let me cut the veil. How would you have, and I'm going to throw this also to the room, how would you have treated the Palafan? Because we're still talking about it today.
But that was a crisis. You can't say it's not a crisis.
No, what I'm trying to say, what about the ones that are a crisis yet we are nonchalant about them?
Oh!
Yeah.
Hey!
There are ones that demands, there are ones that are a crisis.
Yes. So, the answer is also very simple. You cannot not deal with crisis. Right? You have to deal with it. In fact, the wound gets bigger the more you try to run away from it. It doesn't get any better. So I'm never ever going to suggest that you don't deal with crisis, especially if it's crisis. Deal with it and deal with it quickly and but also get out. Once you've dealt with it, get out. You don't have to dwell on that thing. I'm not sure. I would have to be paid to give an opinion on Palapat. But I'm not sure that it was dealt with. At least not properly. Right?
I think my question is around it. That needed attention. I think that's
It was a crisis. It needed to be dealt with. Has it been dealt with?
Yes. Adequately?
I'm going to give my bank account for that one, for that part 2. Right? So I'm not dealing with part 2. And it should have been dealt with. I'm not telling you whether I think how it should have been dealt with.
Or rather, let me move from Palapara even. In the Eastern Cape, we had 42 people died in Zendane Road. There was a road in Zendane, as you know, I think, bus accident.
Whatever road, everything happens in the Eastern Cape.
I think it was, I mean, it's 10 years later.
Yeah.
We're still talking about that route. They even brought a new spokesperson at the Department of Transport in the Eastern Cape. He's just busy doing movies. I mean, it doesn't help. So I think my question is around it. What about the ones that demand attention and we kind of like look away, as you said?
As I said, you can't look away when you have to give it attention.
How do you determine that?
Everybody. I get paid for that part. That's a paycheck point. Right? So let's stick to what I just said. You deal with it. How? My number is 084.
How do we classify a crisis?
Can we have a mic, please?
How do we classify a crisis?
You tell me.
Now you're stretching leadership.
You tell me.
I'm not telling you,
I'm still asking the question to the room.
Oh, the question is to you guys. How do we classify something as crisis?
Yeah, because to the person who was heavily involved, that might not be a crisis. To the party, that might not be a crisis, and I suspected that's how the party felt. But to government, that could be something else.
The parties are present that in parliament, I can tell you they dealt with it as a crisis.
Yeah, but the way they communicated it was terrible. How do we classify an issue as crisis? I'll give you an example. In the Northwest, there was a story about a donkey cart that were paid for by the party.
Yeah.
We had a lot of grey hairs growing, trying to deal with an issue. But to the other people, they say, no, but this is part of our rural transport strategy. There's no issue.
Can somebody laugh? Because I am laughing. No, I'm saying to the response.
Yeah. So my question still stands. How do we classify crisis in government communication? Can I get assistance from the colleagues?
How do we classify crisis? Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you for that question. So there's two matters here. There would be those matters that you say they're crisis, but they're before the court of laws. So as a communicator, you should not tap into the details of what we consider as a matter that is sub judice. You would refer the statement to say that this matter has been noted, but at this moment it's within the court of laws, and until...
No, but you are talking about it. We are talking about how to respond. He wants to know, what do you classify as crisis? What do you classify as crisis? That's his question.
But he was asking about Palapala. So the thing about Palapala is a matter that is sub judice.
Yeah, no. Once it goes to court, but here's the question. In your view, Palapala and a crisis. Forget about how you respond about sub judice, those fancy names. Is it a crisis?
It depends which time.
That's the point. So, what do you regard as crisis? I like the it depends part. What in your view is a crisis?
Depends on the time. So what would be a crisis would be a matter that is of national attention, that will endanger life, and that will endanger national discourse.
What is national discourse? What is national discourse?
It would actually disrupt the normal running of life. So whether it's life in terms of daily operation of people, that it will make people disorientated, it will actually get into a rule of law where people take law into their own hands. Also, a crisis would be something that will instigate a form of violence, where you see some people are inciting on social media or on other platforms. They are actually implying that if you don't, which is what is happening now, it's potentially could be a crisis where there is a slight suggestions that if this does not happen, then
are you happy so far? Be honest with me. Are you happy so far?
And what I would say, sorry to interject, is that it is important as a communicator for each of your departments to have a crisis communication policy, because a crisis is not the same for me as opposed to a crisis in water. So for water department, then you'll know that we'll have a crisis when these areas, when we get into this situation. And when we get to those situations, then who speaks on behalf of the organization? Like if there is no water.
That part you're going too far.
I'm trying to explain the crisis.
I'm not there yet. Those persons policy and stuff, but they will get to that.
Because he's
we are now defining crisis. Now get an answer from an expert.
Okay.
Listen to this.
give an example when we had the bridge collapse in Santel. The city has a lot of brilliant spokespersons, but based on the nature of that event, the spokesperson had to be the mayor himself. So sometimes you have to, as she was saying, have a crisis management document that defines what is it, what do you define as a crisis, and who speaks when, and take it from there. Sometimes you do need approval from students. Can I speak to this? I posted something recently. It was fun. Chiefs had lost.
Don't we all know that post?
Chiefs had lost, and we posted something. It was going with the vibe on social media. The colleagues at Chiefs didn't take it too well. I actually refused to delete it.
Yeah.
They insisted that I told my manager, I'm not taking it. There's nothing wrong with that post. And my manager decided, nah, I'm going to call your juniors to delete it. And it was deleted. In any case.
I had seen it already by the time.
Yeah.
Look, guys, I don't think we've defined crisis, and I'll tell you why it's difficult to define it. When I take a step.
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
I'm giving you 2 minutes.
Oh, 2 minutes?
Yes.
Phew, I'm so relieved.
Here's my simple answer to my colleague from the Northwest. How you define a crisis in the government space, whatever has a potential to damage your brand, it is a crisis.
Well, I'm not sure why you aid in the part in government. If it damages your
No. Institutions, institutionally respective indeed.
Right? Yeah. Guys, it could be life-threatening or damaging to your brand. It could mess up your processes. Whatever it is that you think is so serious becomes a crisis. There is no one textbook line. But point is that you cannot postpone to deal with crisis. You can deal with it very urgently and get out once you've dealt with it. However, the point of this conversation was that 9 out of 10 times we create the crisis by how we respond to what we perceive. Be careful. Be very careful. Like you, my brother, I've got a not so serious podcast that I do. And 2 weeks ago I did a podcast that suggested that President Ramaphosa has resigned. And I created a letter of resignation. And only after posting the podcast, my partners, which is Sowetan Live, panicked because somebody called and said, how could you say this because the president has not resigned? And they wanted to take it down and stuff like that. And I said, here's the response to the presidency or whoever else picked it up. Please ask them to read up the word satire and shut up. And the matter was done. Thank you very much. We shall meet again later.
Thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause to Rams. Is this one audible? Yeah. Thank you so much, Rams. So, one of the things that at Decode we pride ourselves with, and somebody was asking me earlier, is around partnerships, right? And we've been able to ensure that not only do we partner with a University of Johannesburg, but importantly, we look at big tech companies that are in the country. As you know, that at least South Africa is home to One Meta, which is the parent company for Facebook and WhatsApp and Instagram. But also importantly, we are also home to Google, which also is the parent company for, or at least they are the owners of YouTube. So today we are going to be listening and hearing from Anwar Jabi, who is the head of he's the head of industry at Google South Africa. He will be sharing a few more insights. It's a pity that the people that didn't think that we are going to have this wonderful presentation have left, but their loss and our win. Anwar?
He's coming back in just one minute.
Oh.
He's on his way back.
I owed you that 1 minute that they took.
No, I want to fry there waiting for another minute.
All right. Let me fry. Oh, all right. So anyway, Anwar, as you come up, immediately once he's done with this presentation, Prof. Nicole will then facilitate a Q&A. But I also want to say to our colleagues online, and we accept the criticism, by the way, we take it on the chin. Somebody put up a message to say, we claim that this is a digital summit, and yet the digital part of the digital summit is not going so well. They feel left out, and we apologize for that. We acknowledge that we could have done better, and we promise that tomorrow, with the technical team, we'll definitely do better. It's now to you. We will please give him a warm round of applause.
Hello everybody. Someone said it's Gaten McKenzie speaking. And someone else said it's Jason Goliath speaking. So, no, when I had some few minutes, I just rushed to the toilet. So sorry everybody. Am I the last? Are we the last this afternoon? How's the energy levels? Government not paying well if from this time of the day. So let's go on a journey. I'll try and be specific, energizing, and have some key takeouts for you from today. So I work at Google. I know who every one of you is because Google knows everything about everybody. But to be serious, I work in our large customer sales department. So I sell Google Ads. Yeah. And I speak to partners every day around how they can reach their consumer, their target audience using Google Ads. So today I'll take you in a snapshot. All of you are working in some form or another on Google Ads, but I'm going to go a little bit sharp on a few elements. Specifically, you are all doing multimedia. I'm a very digital media advocate, so I'll take you through a story on why that's important, and how the landscape is shaping the next year to 2 years. And then I'll take you specifically on YouTube. Let's go a little bit deeper on YouTube. Yeah. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Any other expectations? Let's get it out. And although I won't mention it in the presentation too much, I'll cover it off. Is there any other expectations from a Google Ads perspective?
Can you share your presentation
Afterwards? Yeah. And I can make a few jokes like Mr. Jason Goliath, and I can be political like if you want me to be. So, but let's start. Apparently there's someone who is doing my clicking. Can you sit closer? Yeah. I just go like this and not, yeah. So you can already go to the next slide, yeah, which is just me, nice picture. Yeah, so the opportunity that's open has always been here. And the opportunity for me is today just bringing the message of the internet to you. What is that opportunity? So this is the current internet population, South African online, 72%, yeah? That's a massive number, yeah? And I think maybe part of the conversation, I know some of you don't just work with South Africa, you do some export focus areas, but this is a specific South African number, yeah? That 72% is just growing, yeah? And why it's growing? This is something Google did. We launched a cable from Europe to Africa, specifically landing in Cape Town. It's called the Equiano cable. This went live 2 years ago, yeah? Landed in Bloemfontein, OpenSurf, did the connection, here we go, Bob's your uncle. What does this cable do for South Africa? So already, Equiano is live, yeah, 2 years ago. So what Equiano has done is really supplement the internet capacity coming to South Africa. So already, speed is going up, yeah. You can see the increase, megabytes per second, yeah, by 2025, yeah. It's almost 3xing the internet speed capacity in South Africa. Overnight, it's already happened, yeah. Cost is also going down. Already, projection of cost going down 21%. Penetration of internet 9.3%. So what the cable does, Google brings the cable. Google is not offering the internet. Google sells it on. Yeah? Open service, but just a platform doing the on-selling. Who's on Vumatel? Who's on, give me the other names, sorry, there's so many. They're all buying the internet capacity from all these players, yeah. So why the competition is there is because it's getting cheaper, yeah. The competition is all buying it from the same people, yeah. And Google is literally offering that. We're not the only ones doing that. There's also another company, the people in blue, not the DA, Meta, yeah. They also have a cable landing, yeah, doing similar things, yeah. So what is happening? The infrastructure that we are used to in South Africa has definitely changed. The internet was really messed up about 3 months ago. I don't know who had issues. Yeah, apparently it still happens because it's an undersea cable that runs in the water. Someone snapped the cable. I don't know how you do that because I saw how big these cables are. And immediately on that day, yeah, this was still the old cables, people rerouted their capacity through the Equiano cable. Yeah. But it's not just on that level that Equiano is having an impact. It's also having real impact from a market perspective. So, impact on GDP, we're talking $7 billion. Job creation, South Africa alone, they're projecting in the next 5 years because of just Equiano, yeah, and the additional internet capacity that it's bringing to the market, delivering an extra 180,000 jobs. This is, what's that thing there? Maybe this is your security showing data that the government doesn't know. We show ads very different. We make it part of the experience. People don't want to see.
We need to go back to the PowerPoint.
Yeah, so why I'm showing you that is that this is not a past piece. The Equiano cable landed 2 years ago. Yeah? And this has had a catalyst impact on everything related to the internet in South Africa and how consumers are engaging with the online experience. Yeah? Part of that is also making sure that you understand that because it's landed 2 years ago, I've given you a projection until 2025. You should start seeing that catalyst experience coming up from a consumer perspective. South African consumers are spending up to 9.5 hours a day on their phone. Yeah? Maybe the average, does it sound like a big average for you? Yeah? 9.5 hours. Yeah. That's a lot. And that's just going to increase. Yeah, we know what they are watching. Yeah. We know what you are watching. But that's between friends, I won't go into it. But the idea is around everything that's happening on this mobile device. Yeah. And Google has a slice of that 9.5 hours that we'll talk about now, but it's for you to understand how dominant this device in the consumer's hand is from a communication perspective. We did the Equiano cable. Last month we launched another cable. Yeah, it's called the Umoja cable. Yeah, the cable will connect Africa and Australia, yeah? And it will literally go from Kenya all the way through from South Africa over to Kenya. Yeah. Those numbers I don't have yet, but that will have another catalyst impact from an internet penetration and opportunity in South Africa perspective. So we're talking about 2 years, that's going to be the internet penetration in South Africa, almost 90%. So if you are doing any form of communication and you say the South African consumer is not online, not consuming the internet, I don't know which planet you are living on, it's not South Africa, because that's the South African standard. Yeah? Obviously the usage changes given the certain consumer, but all South Africans will have access in one form or another. Yeah? Why? There's also mobile cost is dropping. Yeah? Now you can go to PEP and get a 4G phone at like 700 Rand, 400 Rand. The stuff is just getting cheaper and cheaper. Chinese are just making it easier. If it's not Huawei, it's Oppo, there's even cheaper versions out there as well. Stuff that we didn't have 4 years ago. From a Google perspective, when we talk around Google search and how people are looking for information, we've seen that 75% of these searches are coming from their mobile phones. The download speeds have already increased 6x by 2018, and the Equiano will just make sure that increases even further. So that has to do with the experience. You don't have to wait long. Yeah, you click on it, it's instantaneous. The days of I have to wait, you know, I don't know, some of you remember. For the young people, used to dial up to the internet. Used to make it sound. Yeah. You'd wait. You could wait. Probably it says a 1 gig file, it says, and it should tell you how many hours it will download. A 1 gig will probably say 5 days. Things have changed. Yeah. This is just around mobile internet coverage around 4G, 3G. The big one where if you have everything that MTN is saying and Vodacom is saying, and this is important from a device perspective. So the high-end devices are getting cheaper. But they're actually looking at scaling and getting rid of 3G, yeah? Which means 4G and 5G is going to be the #1 pieces that the country is moving towards. Yeah. So just think about it. It's around the online consumer experience, and the consumer is going to be much better, much quicker from a device piece, and that's happening now. That's just the average cost of data. It's much lower than that, unless you buy it from the internet online through your banking app. Yeah. This one is just here. I've got a segue before I get into YouTube, just to the pieces around. As Google, we have something called the Google auction. Yeah? And why it's important for you to understand, it's an open auction where everybody can come in and bid for certain terms. So if you're in the business of trying to speak to tourism, yeah, and it's about going to Cape Town Jazz Festival, and you also want to be in the mix around showing that it's a destination. Cape Town is always going to be very competitive when people want to have advertising. Any types of entertainment in Cape Town is big. So that becomes a robust auction that you're working with. But the behavior of the consumer has really changed. And with that has been how you can actually target them online. Yeah. So the purpose of Google Ads is literally for us to help you to connect with business and consumers that you want to reach, based on their interests. Yeah. So cutting it any way that you want it. So we've got our own signals around what consumers are into. If you are looking into, the system can literally tell you various signals of consumer behavior. Yeah? So if someone is into education, looking for studies, and you want to speak to them specifically, that's a specific audience that you want to speak to. So I want to speak to anybody in Gauteng that's looking to study next year at a tertiary institution. Yeah, UJ as an example. Yeah, that's an audience. You can bid towards that audience to say, I've got something that I want to make sure, either a product or a service or messaging, that I want to make sure that every student going to university next year in Johannesburg is getting this message. And how do we know they're a student going to university next year? Because they're going online. They're going to Google search, they're typing in what to study next year. Yeah? They are going in how to get funding. So it's not just someone that's interested in studying generally, but really this person is looking at going next year. Yeah? Because the signals are very specific. It's looking for accommodation. So all these things together ends up giving them a signal to say, this person is really ready to go and study next year. That audience is super focused and super valued for certain consumers. Yeah. We want to speak to them. I do that. I sell to the car brands, all the car brands, in market for buying a new car. Yeah. Imagine how important that audience is. So I'm not just speaking to everybody. I'm speaking to someone that wants to buy a car. So I think for all of you, you have a very specific audience that you're dealing with. And what it allows you to do is become very narrow and speak to that audience specifically. Sometimes you have a broad mandate, you want to make sure lots of people get the message, but when you want to get specific action, you always go a little bit tighter. Yeah? So these are the things that we do on the Google platform. Google search, Google display, and videos. Yeah? So when people say Google, they also do YouTube. YouTube is part of Google, yeah? Including search and display. Display would be anything that you see on while you're scrolling, reading a newspaper, an ad, that is display. When you're in an app, Betway, putting half of the winnings for the just one last week and put it back again, that is a display ad. Yeah. So my next slide will show you how it shows up across. So literally, this is how you see it on your device: search, display, and video. So what you'll see in, say in an app, yeah? Apps are also, because people are spending lots of time in apps, but we'll get you in the app as well. Wherever you are and you're ready to be served a message or opportunity, that's what we do, yeah? So apps is important. Who of you have apps as part of your strategy? What's that? Which app is that? City of Johannesburg.
Yes.
COJ, yeah. Yeah, apps is important, yeah. So a lot of consumers love to use apps, yeah. So a big part is, for us, is that COJ will have an app, COJ would have their own advertising strategy, and they might sell on their own advertising space in their app. And they sell it onto Google, and we will sell it on their behalf. So that's how we do it, yeah. And obviously the app, some of the networks that signed up with Google, particularly when we talk about programmatic, you can buy ads via Google for DSTV, yeah? And why that's important is that it's not just online in the traditional sense, it's also additional new revenue streams that these partners are looking for, yeah? I'm particularly excited for one day for the SABC to come on board as part of the network that we can sell on behalf of. Yeah. We have a tool called Performance Max, and why I wanted to highlight this one is that everybody's talking AI, yeah. AI has been a transformative issue around entire work streams, but particularly in marketing, it's having a much bigger catalytic impact. Where Performance Max is a piece is that we've already had AI in our ad products for the last 4 years, yeah? Because there's analytical AI and there's predictive AI. And what it does, it helps you to go and use some of these products. So I talked about the different ad platforms that we have. What Performance Max does is saying, I've got an objective, I want to reach consumer X that's interested in studying at UJ next year. What Performance Max does, it will do all the optimization for you. Yeah, it will go and find. So you don't need to do the old work where it's like, I'm going to have a search ad, I'm going to have a video ad, I'm going to have a display ad, and then I'm going to put 20% of my budget here, 10% of my budget here. What Performance Max does is say, what is your objective? And optimize towards that. Where you go and find that people Google, I don't care. I just want them to see my messaging to them. Yeah? And that's the type of AI that's been built into ad businesses at the moment. And Performance Max is one of that. So when you're speaking to your agencies and you're working through your strategy, those are some of the questions you should be asking. Say, which part of these ad units are using AI to maximize performance? Performance Max is one example of it. So some of them are much more sophisticated, and it's baked into every single ad unit that they have available at the moment. Because the days of optimizing manually, the human is important, but the human is the compass to give the direction. The heavy lifting and the manual stuff around optimization every day should be done by a machine. Yeah? That's what the machine is there, is to do the heavy lifting. Yeah? And make sure that your reach efficiencies are there and your cost savings are coming through. This is the sexy part that I wanted to talk around is YouTube. So this is just the additive breakdown from a consumer perspective. Because there's always a perception when I speak to people working in advertising or clients and say, oh, it's just people with money that's on YouTube. Yeah? What this slide shows you is that from an additive split perspective, yeah. So this is the internet population in South Africa, yeah. Look how broad it is as a church in terms of making sure that all South Africans from different income groups are covered, yeah, and different ages are also covered, yeah. So reach from a traditional and digital perspective, digital is starting to do much better than traditional, yeah, and you've seen that. SABC, what is the current SABC penetration in South Africa? Yeah, it's sitting in its 70s. Yeah, so and part of that is that you've got consumers that are switching off, that are not watching TV. Yeah, we also know there's been a digital migration where some consumers have been impacted. So there is a big drop off of people that are being able to be reached with television, as an example. Still the single biggest platform in the country. Very important. Needs to be central to your strategy. But it's not going to cover all the consumers like you used to. In the past, you just put an ad and say everybody's seeing it. You're sitting here in the mid-70s of South Africans that can see. Yeah? At the moment, 26 million adults in South Africa can be reached with advertising on YouTube. Yeah? That's 18 plus. 26 million South Africans on a monthly basis. What does that mean? Yeah, 60% of all South African adults can be reached via the YouTube platform on a monthly basis. Yeah, and their watch time is growing 30% year on year. What does watch time means? As when I was talking about that 9.5 hours that they spend on the device, they're watching more. Yeah, there's more to watch. It's like a gateway drug in touching television. You know, you just, yeah. I have another joke, but it's not appropriate. To say, from a streaming perspective, once people start watching video, they get into a rabbit hole. They just can't stop watching. Yeah, and that's growing 30% year on year on YouTube alone. If YouTube was a TV channel in South Africa, it will be the single biggest TV channel in South Africa. Yeah, that's the SABC. This is last year's SABC numbers. Yeah, according to their financial result in the annual report. Yeah, so the single biggest TV channel in South Africa from SABC is SABC 1, 26.6 million. Yeah. Do you know how SABC does the age group from a age perspective? Yeah. What age do they start counting from? 16. Yeah. So 16. So you can actually take about 8% of all of those numbers as well. YouTube is 26 million adults in South Africa. Yeah, verified adults. I had a video here, but because it's end of day, we'll move through. But there's a story, there's a story there. So this is Lunga Moy. He's the head of Unilever Media for Africa. Yeah? So Unilever is the single biggest TV advertiser in South Africa. It will always be the single biggest TV advertiser in South Africa. But what Unilever has started doing very differently is saying they now have a one video strategy. Yeah. What does that mean? For them, it's not about TV or YouTube. They say the consumer loves video for the storytelling, for the messaging to get through. We want to win in video. Where they go and find the video, that's the strategy that they've developed. So they've now developed a YouTube TV strategy, which is planning it together. Because what you find is that you go, the media team goes and does a TV strategy, we can reach X amount of South Africans, budget is spent, comes back, then the media team gets briefed, can you do YouTube? YouTube is just there, two little things here. What the integrated strategy does is does integrated reach. Yeah? So it talks about incremental reach, consumers that you are not reaching on TV. Yeah? It talks about cost saving, because you might have a situation where you say, Anwar, I want Anwar to only see my ad 3 times a month. Yeah? If you don't have an integrated strategy, Anwar will see his ad 5 times on TV and 7 times on online. Yeah? So I've got 3 minutes. The goodies are still coming. Yeah? I'm not going to go deep into this. We've got different formats. So there's been a big growth for the likes of TikTok in South Africa. Yeah? Because people love shorts. YouTube Shorts is also there. People love shorts. What I wanted to highlight is this thing here. Connected TV. Who's got a connected TV? Meaning you are watching streaming via your TV. Can I see your hands, please? Connected TV, smart TV. Yeah, cool. On YouTube, 6 million South Africans are watching YouTube on their smart TV. Just think about that. 6 million South Africans are watching YouTube on their smart TV. Yeah? That's YouTube on its own. How big is the Instagram audience in South Africa? About 8 million. Yeah? TikTok is probably sitting around 17 million at the moment. So YouTube, and why I'm emphasizing it is that it needs to be central to your video strategy, both from a reach perspective and from a device perspective. YouTube is the only video platform that you can get across all those devices. Connected TV, tablet, laptop, phone. Yeah. 3 minutes. Yeah. So thank you. Internet is not tomorrow, it is now. It's going to become much more demanding. If you want to win your messaging, you're not competing against each other as government departments or government entities. The brands are speaking to that same consumer. They want that 9.5 hours. They want to control the mind space. If you want to win, this is a space to win. The other piece is around the YouTube part. It needs to be a central video strategy. So if video is important to you, make sure you talk about one video strategy. Yeah, let's talk about planning TV and video, meaning YouTube together. If any agency is not doing that to you, send them away. Let them come back with a better plan for you. Yeah, and ultimately, all media channels are important. Yeah, but some of them are more important than others. My job today was just to introduce you to the Google offering around how we can support. Thanks.
Have a seat, and we can then open it up to questions. But Anwar, thank you for that really interesting discussion. I particularly appreciated your introduction to these issues of the digital divide. It's something that we're always thinking about, particularly with a lot of our research that's happening at UJ. Can I just ask you, what, just to bring you out and think about like the ad industry and Google's strategy in South Africa a bit more broadly, can I ask you, what do you see as sort of some of the biggest challenges with abuses of ads? Some of the biggest problems, for example, external influencing, and how do you try and maintain quality control over this? So what do you see as the biggest threats and manipulation of the sector?
Yeah, so I've got so many people just complaining about Google Ads because whenever you press ads, even as partners, you get your ads disallowed. The rules about what you can't do and can do is really strict. Yeah, because part of it is we are working actively against people that are trying to deceive. Yeah, the ad will say offering something, you click through, it takes you to another area. Yeah, that is not a consumer experience that we encourage on the platform, as an example. So we've used ads for that. Yeah, AI. Yeah. So the first part of just managing the millions and millions of ads that are going on Google ad platform per day is literally a lens of just the machine looking at what can be allowed and what can't be allowed. Yeah. What is a newer space that's happening, and it's not an ad space specifically, is because of the advent of what technology means. And now people are putting more fake content on the internet. Yeah. And we try and manage that as much as possible as well. Yeah. What we've done with any of our generative AI, be it video, be it photography, is almost to have a digital footprint within the ad to show that it has been tampered with, as an example. So if it goes onto the Google network, you can see that it's not the original. Yeah? It has been manipulated. Yeah? But that's our corporate responsibility around how we're trying to manage our AI impact into the business and into the world. Obviously, there's a bigger ecosystem out there.
Can I ask you another question about this issue of AI? Because I think we're also thinking a lot about, as we train students, the future of work. And so you mentioned, I think it was performance maximization for the communicators, the external people that are purchasing these ads. In the last 2 years, how has the work that you do, your job specifically, been changed by AI? If you can divulge these sort of like company secrets or trade secrets.
No, it's there. Yeah, and I think we in Google, we've been an AI first company since 2019. Yeah, but we never really said it because people didn't like the word AI. As the machines are coming, and a lot of the work around AI has been white papers and academic pieces that Google has put into the industry as open source. So even ChatGPT has been built on the work that Google has done before. Where the game changer happened was around ChatGPT moving very quickly around generative AI. Yeah? And now the horse has popped. Everybody's hearing, seeing the benefits. Yeah? And now we have also just left. The words we used to use for AI used to be automation, machine learning. Yeah? So those elements have been in our business for a long time. Yeah? And the examples of the machine learning part has been, we've been able to do this from a creative perspective. Even this was 6 years ago. You could take a 30-second ad. We had something called a bumper machine. You put the ad, the YouTube URL in the ad, and then it would give you 5 or 6 6-second versions of that ad. And I've been using that for the last 5 years already. So just think about it in terms of how much money you spend from a creative perspective. It's not taking away the creative agency shooting the ad, but then trying to then say, can I have versions X and cut down Y? There's more production cost being added to it. That thing would be instantaneous. 30 seconds later, I would have 5 different ad versions. That was 5 years ago. That is available now across multiple platforms around how your creative is being optimized. You should,
Can I ask
yeah.
you, sorry, because you reach out to industry
Yes.
specific, so you try and deal with these companies and corporations. Has it changed the ways in which you decide who you target? How are you using it? When you said today you met with Unilever, for
Yeah.
example, are you using it with how you're predicting what companies are going to be the biggest spenders, for example, or what industries
No, the
or
industries are
sectors you
moving
should reach out
quickly.
to?
There's industries that we don't know that's going to just pop up and just grow. Gaming, real money gaming. Wow, these guys are massive. Yeah, if they're not sponsoring the Durban July, they're sponsoring the clubs in Cape Town. These are industries 5 years ago that you would not have thought that they would be as big as the moment. Yeah. So these are shifting and changing industry, and more of them are just popping up. And part of it is because of startups in the creative industry, where at the moment young people are making a living off the internet. We spoke about it earlier on. Yeah. Influencers. Yeah. Maybe there's some of them in the audience here. I saw the pictures being taken. But this is a real growing industry. I was giving you a stat earlier on. In the US in 2022, the YouTube creator economy. Not TikTok, Meta, they are only YouTube. People that are making a living through putting their content on YouTube, yeah, delivered $22 billion towards the US GDP in 2022 alone. Created 360,000 full-time jobs, yeah, because this is an avenue of how people are able to monetize, yeah. We have this in South Africa. You have a guy called Maggi, yeah, started 5 years ago. Yeah, you love, you hate. No, he's polarizing. Yeah, but there's no denying what he's been able to achieve with his platform. Yeah, and he's worked hard. Yeah, he is. I think it's probably 1.2 million subscribers. Yeah? And to get to 1.2 million, think about it. We talked about what consumers are watching. Week in, week out, listening to his content. And it's not 2 second, 3 second. They are listening for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour. Yeah, he's got 12 full-time people working in his business. Yeah, 12 full-time people. That's the creator economy. And because you think it's just MacG, if you double-click, you start seeing he's created the platform because he's got the infrastructure. And Pops is now working on his platform. He's got a couple of others that he's got in the works there. So this is an example of the creator economy. There's also the Offensive family. Who watches the videos? You don't know Offensive? Yeah. You see, they have over 1 million YouTube subscribers. They do little family skits. Yeah, every week you get over 1 million South Africans watching this stuff. Yeah, this is how the creator economy has shifted. New avenues that weren't there before, and it's shifting further and quicker. Yeah. So when you're looking at channels, you're thinking traditional channels. What the internet has allowed is that people are coming on board, taking ownership and taking advantage of what it allows for reaching audiences and to monetize and to make a living.
Can I just ask one last question before I turn it over to our colleagues here in the audience? So I think it was just last week the US Surgeon General came out and said, oh, there needs to be a warning on a lot of social media platforms because they're very damaging for people's health, for especially youth and adolescents. And I think you mentioned these YouTube shorts, and you also mentioned the dangers of going, well, you didn't mention the dangers, but I'm putting the dangers of going down the rabbit hole into this. So I'm just wondering how, this seems like a big reputational risk for a company like YouTube going forward, particularly as companies have ads on there or want to be associated with it. So I'm just wondering, how are you engaging with this debate in South Africa? Do you see the debate starting to emerge here? Even in China, for example, they only allow youth to use TikTok for a certain number of hours a day. So people recognize that there's also a lot of dangers associated with these platforms.
Yeah, I think when it comes to kids, it's easy to say government must take care of raising your kids. There's a personal responsibility. I've got 2 kids. I've got a 9-year-old boy, Zayn, and I've got a daughter, 7. I have these struggles every day. These are YouTube junkies. Yeah, I'm trying to get chores done before you get device time. I'm losing the battle, just honestly. What has happened in the US is an example. They are now putting legislation around the age of when people can access social media. I think it's California, one of the conservative states. Yeah.
That's the liberal states.
No?
Yeah.
No,
California is very liberal.
Uh,
No, they're just very public health oriented.
Hey, guys, we're from South Africa. When someone say they're liberal, we know it can also be conservative. So
Okay.
it's very relative what a liberal means. Even in the US at the moment, you know, I don't see the line so strong between the liberals and conservatives in the US. But all jokes aside, I think there is a big concern around legislation and policy related to internet usage. Yeah, and for South Africa, that's still a developing space around how that is impacting South Africa. But while the US has got their own issues. Yeah, it's not divorce the impact of politics to the use of digital platforms. TikTok has been banned in the US. Yeah, so you must sell. Yeah, and we know the tension there that exists. Where I see the South Africa piece is that it is around civil society being part of the conversation. Yeah? We are a village raising kids. If Google owns a big house in the village and people are looking up and saying this is the behavior and we need to be called to order, call us to order. Yeah? We work with policy in the country to discuss and work through these issues. We know everything. Even particularly on AI, we are encouraging developing a robust AI legislative framework that works for all in the country. So I do think we are part of this community. If there are issues, people must raise it, and parents must raise it. Yeah, the idea of government, yeah, and civil society needs to work together to solve these pieces. Yeah, so I think it's an ongoing conversation. It's not solved. Yeah, and ultimately I'll still have the battle tonight when I go home with Zain and Ivan around the device time today.
Okay, thank you. I think
but on China,
yeah.
I encourage my kids. I tell them, hey, brah, you've been watching stuff that you've just been on holiday, entertainment. I want you to learn something. So watch something that you've learned today. And I think that's our role that we play. The platform is there. On YouTube itself, YouTube has the best videos on how to and improve. If you look at everything, I can ask this audience now, who's learned something new? They'll say, I went to YouTube and now I can fix my motor for my kids. Save me 600 rand. Those are the things that the internet. So the internet itself is not a challenge. Yeah, it's around how we are using it for good. In South Africa specifically, because of the numbers I showed you, from a youth perspective, this is the youth catalyst that we should be unlocking around. Let's use this for good for our community. So in Africa, internet still has a great job to do. If we are not cable, the Moja cable is just an example of what this allows us to do. And you have a great platform to decide how you want to play a bigger transformative role in that space.
I think if we can just take a couple of questions before we close. Yes. I think there's another.
That's fine.
Thank you. So my question is around how you figure out who's actually using the devices, because for me, my children watch YouTube on my devices, and I heard you touching on adult users. So how are you figuring out the numbers of who's really watching at which time? Do you go by the kinds of shows that are being watched, or what kind of dynamics do you touch on?
Maybe a few questions that we can ask.
Okay. I just want to check, what are some ethical challenges that you get to encounter specifically on the platforms?
Ethical, like example?
Some of the videos that
inappropriate,
or maybe they can instigate some violence, things like that.
Yeah. Anything else? Can you get maybe two more and this answer?
There's a mic here, don't worry.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, my name is Nelisiwe. I'm from the SIU. You're encouraging us to use YouTube, which is great. I use it myself, but also
Viva YouTube.
but also, the cost of data in this country is very high. We know how the access of internet is, and we are government communicators. We're supposed to go to places where people can have easy access. And what is YouTube doing to ensure that your videos are not as data demanding as they are? Secondly, I know you've discounted the impact of TikTok being at 17 million, but I think what I'm observing is some of my favorite YouTubers hardly post or vlog anymore on YouTube, but have now moved towards TikTok, which makes it for us an easier, because TikTok has lighter versions, TikTok Lite, Facebook has Facebook Lite, which means that even the cost of data there is easier for people to handle. So I'd like to know, how are you ensuring that you make YouTube a space that we can use more than just a place where we can dump our videos for the sake of...
So let's start with the YouTube question. I use TikTok, yeah, and I like TikTok. The reality is the consumer doesn't live in one world. They live in multiple worlds, yeah. TikTok is short form, mainly, yeah, short form video. And the difference between YouTube is a lean in. I come to YouTube because I'm looking for something very specific. I type in what I'm looking for. So the intent from an audience perspective is very specific. I'm typing in how to fix. What it gives me a signal for is that consumer is into DUI. I serve in DUI. So what it does from the platform is that the type of platform you have is around a lean-in platform or just a passive platform, just entertainment, yeah? And when you're in different mindsets for that. So it's about finding the consumer in that mindset. So I'm not advocating that TikTok is little. I think TikTok is great. It will continue growing, yeah? There's a difference between long-term form and short form. We also have short form. We have the YouTube Shorts, yeah? When you say you're seeing people that you work with migrating from YouTube to TikTok, TikTok is easy to upload, yeah? YouTube, when I talk around monetization, YouTube is the only platform that really gives you money for making a living, if you are a creator, yeah? What is driving, and you are also part of this issue, you are driving this economy where people are making a living just by posting. What needs to be the issues, like usually, you need to build your following. So when I talked about the US, yeah, when you talk about, there's a guy called Mr. Beast, he's got like 230 million. That's his job. I make videos week in, week out, yeah? And I'm not gonna stop at 230, I'm gonna make 500 million. What is happening in South Africa is that there's a false demand being created by brands paying creators. So no, there's no incentive you to continue growing and become much bigger, because I can just get my money this month and then I can relax, yeah? So there's a big difference. Not all creators, yeah? There's a different piece. So I do think there's a job for both of them. On YouTube specifically, that's what I'm saying, video strategy, storytelling, yeah? How are you telling your story, yeah? I've equated YouTube much closer to TV from a storytelling perspective, yeah? Long form stories, yeah? Where you can go in and I'm watching Miss Maggie for an hour, yeah? And once at next year, I want others for an hour. So it's a very different type of consumer piece. TikTok, growing, look at the age group. Yeah, I was talking about SABC, very specific. Yeah, look at the numbers. Who's your audience? So if you're very clear on your audience strategy, different channels will make much bigger sets. Yeah, so that's similar approach to the TikTok piece. Yeah. On your question around the ethical considerations around content, it's an ongoing challenge. Yeah. But that's what you were talking around as well, around the moderation that happens on the platform. Things get flagged, yeah? A lot of it is AI flagged, yeah, the machine. But we also have human verificators looking at the content to make sure that it is. But also, you can, if an average consumer makes a complaint against a video, it flags it to be reviewed, yeah? And it's an ongoing piece, yeah? And I think it's what I was talking on the village. Everybody has an impact around making sure that the content. Number one responsibility sits with us, yeah? And we've gone through the learning piece. We've been there. Some of the newer guys haven't been there, yeah? Where advertisers put all their advertising because of inappropriate content, yeah? We had to fix our house, yeah? Your question was? Yeah. So if you see around, and it's also around what we've done. So even the numbers that are quoted at the moment, yeah, there is verified numbers that we're working with for advertisers, and then there's platform reach. The platform reach on YouTube is bigger than 26 million, yeah. So where the verification happens is around exactly what I was talking around, the content being watched, yeah. So even the number, it's not like you'll see every year it's 26 million here and now it's going to 30 million. We actually have algorithms to work out to say, on that consumer, there is viewing happening that is not just that view on its own, so you don't double count them. Yeah. Also within YouTube, you can have different profiles as well. Yeah. So if you talk connected TV, all of us have our own profile that we watch it on. Yeah. I always watch. I go to my kids' profile because I want to see what they're watching. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. Just to give a device to a kid. Yeah. Do you just leave your kid to go and play in the road? Yeah. And now you want everybody else to look after your kid. The world has changed. You need to see what your kid is watching. Yeah. There is so many apps available at the moment. Even if you just go onto their pause viewing, you can see what they're watching. Yeah. Kids having a device unfettered. I'm in favor of parents managing that. I don't need government to tell me how many hours my kid must watch a device. Yeah. So I do think it is an issue that requires collaboration in the family. On the multiple device usage, that is ongoing. Yeah. And we particularly see that in South Africa from a parent giving the kids 2 or 3 kids. Yeah. So my rule is my kids don't use my phone. Yeah. We have my old Samsung that's the house phone. That's what they can use. But in most families it is around there's some usage. Yeah. The cost that was mentioned, I talked around the cost. In South Africa, let's not underestimate South Africans. If you want to get access to data, you make a plan. Yeah. You drive it down any township and you see the library. And people are standing outside the library like, hey, are they giving away food at the library? They're giving away data at the library. Yeah. Fiber connections in this country, I don't know the current number. When I was working with telcos 4 years ago, there was 1 million fiber connections in South Africa. People make a plan, yeah, during the day. Or that comes and works by noon, she's surfing on your internet the whole day. Yeah? Don't underestimate South Africans. There is also a big piece that government is playing around bridging that digital divide. Yeah? I worked on a project that we started in, Think Wi-Fi. Yeah? Think Wi-Fi, township-based free internet. Yeah? That rolled out Cape Town, Gauteng. Yeah? They're bigger now. I worked with them 3 years ago. We started the project. It was based on a project that we had in India called Google Station, where you watch 2 ads and you get 500 megs worth of data. These activities happening all in South Africa. So there's not one that's solving it for everybody, but I think they're all piecing together. It's not like it's unfettered 24 hours data. If you're trying to serve a message, does internet reach them? That's what my data was trying to show. It's not saying it's the only one and it's going to hit them all the time, but South Africans are having access. And do not underestimate the impact that Equiano is going to have in South Africa. Yeah? When you talk about YouTube, we work with the telcos, we do that around the bandwidth required to actually watch on your mobile phone. What do you need to have it on? And you can have all the settings on your phone. Those things are there already. Yeah? We work with the telcos to bring down the cost of YouTube packages. So when you see YouTube bundle X, YouTube bundle Y, Vodacom is not just giving Father Christmas to everybody here that for free. That's an incentive that we are giving. So we understand, and it is that thing when I talk is like a streaming drug. People want it. The more you give it to you, the more want it. Yeah. So are we there yet in terms of the overall costs? That's a journey that we're on. But where we were, and I talked about the 4-year plan around just so the data costs have come down. It's just going to.
You can see that this is much better content than on Spizani. What to do, but to have around 1 round of applause. Today, you'll recall that we started the session by discussing, we were forced to discuss internet shutdowns in Africa and the implications for that and why we have to be always mindful of the reality of our continent and the context in which they happened. And I suppose in the context of the importance of human rights and all of that, it was important that we do that. And I hope the discussion was very beneficial for all of us. And then we came to discuss what is important for all of us as public sector communication, the role of strategic communication in enhancing received from the likes of Happy, very important discussions that I think remains important, and I hope all of you received or were influenced by what could be used and how you can use public sector or strategic communication in the public sector perspective to do the work that you do. I think there was a lot of discussions from the breakaway sessions, from what I had in the report backs. But what I think is important was the zoom in on, as an example, on crisis communication. What is a crisis? And how do we respond to crisis? You see, I always say that all of us in our lives are going to face a crisis, one way or the other. Whether you like it or not, you are going to face a crisis. And a crisis, you don't plan for it. And when it comes, you better be prepared. Or you better know what you are going to do when the crisis comes. Because a crisis is an unexpected event that happens. So from a crisis communication point of view, I always say you need to have a crisis, the media landscape from a Google perspective. I think the pertinent examples that have been shared here are very important, and it's examples that we can relate to. If you haven't seen McGee, you don't live in South Africa. And how that influences how you interact with these platforms is very important. Of course, I mean, I always say that I do have a, what is this popular video I was talking about that is now that I'm beginning to engage with that is very important. So today was very interesting discussions. We continue tomorrow, where we're going to look at the focusing, continue with the public sector communication focus, and exploring, for example, the topic that I'm looking for tomorrow, the promises and the perils of AI. We live in the public sector, communicators respond and reflect on some of those issues. So these are some of the topics and many more that we'll be discussing tomorrow. So hopefully all of you who are here, who have stayed up until this time, will be here tomorrow to reflect with those topics. But that's the sense of how I think were the discussions today, and I hope they were very helpful. So without any further ado, I'm going to call my closing remarks for us and tell us why we should be here tomorrow. But I think there are obvious reasons why we should be here tomorrow.
Thank you, Paul. So I'm not going to be a church guy doing closing remarks for 3 hours. And if this takes 3 minutes, start throwing things at you. One, I'd like to share with you one of my most favorite quotes. And I quote, "Those who complete the course will do so only because they do not, as fatigue sets in, convince themselves that the road ahead is still too long. Too steep, the loneliness impossible to bear, and the price itself of doubtful value." Does anybody know whose quote is this? Former President Thabo Mbeki, his inauguration in 1999. So this is a tribute to you who stayed here till the end. Thank you very much, and please and to thank you, we have a networking session without alcohol. And I'm not going to mention it. Somebody was asking whether there's going to be alcohol. But there will be cocktails, virgin cocktails. And it's going to be when we had our lunch earlier in the day. Thirdly, we're going to announce the winners as we promised, who participated on social media. It will be announced tomorrow morning to make sure you come back tomorrow, right? And then lastly, take out your pens or write somewhere. We have another big prize to offer, the value of which is 80,000 rand. So, send an email to info@decode.co.za. info@decode.co.za. And all you have to tell us, briefly, is why you need help communication point of view, we are offering you what we call a communication and PR audit, which costs 80,000 rands. We're offering it for free. So the best motivation will get it at the end of tomorrow. And on that note, thank you very much for staying. Have a great evening further. See you bright and early tomorrow.
Thank you.
Oh, and this is telling your office the audit. If it includes travel outside Gauteng, you carry there, but everything else is free. So we're not going to travel to the Eastern Cape for you. We don't have the money.
What's up? We're done.
We're done.